All right.
Episode 12, Moving on Sports. Your host, Sam and Ryan. Welcome. It
What's up?
is February 19th, 2025. And there's a lot going on in the world. Should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Up first. Little fun on here, Sam. Politics. What is your most liberal position? I can go first if you want to think about it for a second.
Yeah, you go first.
I think my most liberal position, and this has nothing to do with where I live, but healthcare, Medicare for all. I'm an advocate for Medicare for all. And my reasoning is, first of all, I think the current system with Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, it's like an insurance guarantee. It's not healthcare, which I just think is like adding another step unnecessarily. It kind of ends up being a payout to United Health. And at the end of the day, it's like, do we want people to have insurance, or do we just want people to be able to go get healthcare they need, right? So when you have healthcare, you miss less school, you miss less work. Society would benefit from that, from people showing up at their jobs, from being able to rely on your coworkers, from not missing a day in class. So I think healthcare is like at a baseline. You just got to take care of that and give people healthcare. Yeah.
I think on that, so I think the insurance thing kind of works because if you have government control, like the healthcare, like when I assume you're like, I mean, there's multiple different ways to do it, but I guess you kind of see like the NHS or whatever, where like when the government's actually controlling the actual healthcare providers, you know, like their government-run hospitals or whatever, then it's like there's not a competition, and it's just it gets really poor, right? Like price, quality, service, you get to pick two, and in America we've picked quality and service, and we haven't really picked price. Even though we kind of have picked price, it's just so convoluted, and a lot of it too is because, you know, like the people that are cover healthcare for the people that aren't covered, right? Like if you're really poor, you get phenomenal healthcare in America, like, you know, the best in the world.
Relatively.
Relatively, right? And it's completely covered, like free to you. And I think like a big thing of it is like 80 to 90% of healthcare costs are like basically when you're born and like when you die, and we extend the life, like do life extending things way more than any other country does. Yeah. And I guess that's kind of a good thing, right? Like, and I guess I'm just so against the assisted suicide because that's just introduce incentives to, especially when it's government run healthcare, you know, like, oh, we got to cut costs. Like, let's, you know, off these vulnerable populations. And like that, everyone says like, oh, it doesn't happen. But like in Canada, that's happened. Like it's already happened a couple times where, you know, people have had like depression or whatever and just been like shuttled into like, you know, having the state kill themselves. Not to mention, it's a minor thing, but like I think it's an important thing that doctors, you know, make a vow to do no harm, and then now they're in charge of killing people. And I think that's just, you know, twists their mission and mindset, and, you know, kind of bastardize the whole process.
Yeah, no, that is definitely a weird path we've gone. Somehow some societies have gone down. I don't know how all of a sudden it was like, well, let's just encourage this person. Like, I can't imagine telling someone the best option for you is to just
die. Like, yeah. And it's like if you really want to do it, you know, like I guess why do you have to involve someone else in it? I guess that's my whole, you know, like if you're really, really infirmed or whatever, I mean, have a friend get you some drugs, right? Like there's probably instances where it's, you know, like the doctor gives you a little bit more morphine than you need and you like go away peacefully, right? Like,
I think okay, grandma, honestly, like at the end, my grandma, she was just kind of like in hospice, hanging on, and I'm like, you know, and I'm watching the morphine drip over there, and I'm like, they're just pumping her with like this. You can't come back from just like taking a ton of morphine like that.
Whatever. And it's like, you know, like that's like, people want to do that, and like especially when you're like that old and your mind's kind of gone. Like, I get it, right? But like, I don't think you need to codify that. Like, we almost go to like this gone down this road of where like all these fringe cases have to be put in, and then people don't realize that like bad fringe cases then become fringe on like those new rules, right? You know, where it's kind of like you build the barriers and then you have the stuff around it that happens. But if you send the barriers, there's going to be, you know, like the fringe cases come in, but there's more that adds on. And it's like we just like have such a terrible foresight into like second cause, you know, like basically ramifications of new laws. Like it's like, oh, it's gonna just solve this X, not realize that there's a lot of bad actors in the world and just bad use cases. And at least with the current system, we know what those are. Rather, you know, like there's a big thing of like we're just so bad at estimating unknowns, especially bad unknowns.
Yeah, it's almost hilarious, honestly, when we try to predict things. But back to like the one thing though is like in Spain you have your healthcare, socialized healthcare, but then you also can get private healthcare on top. So say you want to go and pay for a cavity, it costs like I think also doctors in America, they go to a lot. Maybe it's more school. I don't really know the schooling, but they don't get paid as much. Same with in England, and they don't get paid as much. They're not charging as much. I don't know. It's just like I've been starting to look at. I'm like, how are they? It's like everything healthcare wise in the U.S. just costs so much more. And health is kind of one of those things where you're kind of just like, well, you have to do it, right? Like you're scared when you're unhealthy. Like we were buying contacts this week. Contacts here are the exact same, like the same brand, half the cost. Like why?
Yeah.
You know, and people make the argument like, well, in America we do research and then we have to invest and then we sell it to the world. But it's like eventually but that doesn't really make sense to me because it's like, okay, so you do the research, but then why do you not want more money from the rest of the world to also contribute to research funding?
Yeah, like why we're just okay with people paying less than.
Yeah, make as much. Yeah. So maybe that's part of it in other countries, but.
Well, yeah, so that was going to be my point. Like, I think you have to separate it in two buckets. So when it comes to like services, like when people are providing, like you see a doctor, you take someone's time. Like we're always going to be the highest because the cost to acquire and pay talent in America, you know, is just more right than anywhere else. Like because they have to, because those people can do something else to get a similar level, you know, of pay, right? Like you can become a doctor, you could become an engineer, you know, whatever, right? Like there's so many other lucrative options and, you know, there's only so many hours in a day. So that's something that just can't be like super efficient, right? Like product TVs, we have so much, like price goes down so much and you get such better quality. But like when it becomes people, you can't really make, like we're just not really good at making that more efficient and more, like if anything, that's just going to always rise in price no matter what until we're okay with people visiting robots or doing like automated stuff or you know going overseas or whatever. So I think people kind of conflate the two together.
Like just limiting or like giving more power to some of the, you know, it feels like sometimes when you go to the doctor, it's like the nurse does a lot of work, the doctor kind of reviews it.
Yeah, like in the NPs, right? So that's like in the states where some states have NPs, nurse practitioners can do basically act as pseudo doctors. And like the doctors, which maybe a lot of people don't know about, have a really strong union, right? With residencies that those spots are pretty capped. So that leads that there's not that much supply of doctors and you have to go through all this like lengthy training process. And so it really like hampers supply, right? And you have low supply, can't make that much more efficient. You know, that's going to just result in exorbitant prices, you know, not to mention we're very low business, right? You have to have malpractice insurance, medical, that's, you know, like 20, 30, 40%, especially if you're an anesthesiologist, that could be up to 50% of your wage that you have to pay for. So, you know, I mean, just a lot of it is like you know,
the suing, I think is kind of unique to the US.
Yeah. But I think I think a lot of things is like, yeah, there's like fraud and like waste. And I mean, people don't realize that like, okay, with Obamacare, you know, cover birth control for free, right? And cover like PrEP for gay men. And like that costs like 40 grand a year for that, or transgender gender surgeries. those are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that just get absorbed by everyone, right? Or all of this cancer stuff with pre-existing conditions. We're like super obese now and really obese. Like you're going to face a lot of health stuff and you're not, paying accurate wages, like pricing for that, right? And again, we extend all this life and like IVF and, it's just, there's all these super expensive stuff that just gets shared by everyone. I don't necessarily disagree with that because it's kind of like a community and stuff, but you don't really have, people don't feel the individualist incentive to be healthy because they're not directly affected by it. Rather than it's like car insurance. Okay, I'm an 18-year-old man. My car insurance is actually adequately priced into what I actually do, right? That's the medical insurance that does not exist and you're forbidden for it. And is that a good thing? I don't know. I kind of think so, but I think we just have to be realistic about it.
Yeah, I guess it would be nice, and I think maybe we're doing that, but it would be nice just, I think, awareness and just like a push into health. And I know it's kind of funny because like that was Michelle Obama's like whole thing back in her first lady. And now it's like Robert Kennedy's whole thing. But I think it's kind of all comes from the same concepts, right? And people just need to, well, also like when you take care of issues, I was kind of amazed. Like when I like losing weight, like I just feel so much better, and like my heartburn being gone. And I so easily could have, I remember taking a friend's pill for heartburn once and it like cleared it up perfectly, like a prescription pill. And I was like, oh, maybe I should go get a prescription for it. And then now I never have to deal with it. And it's just, I don't have a prescription either.
Change your body or get a pill or a shot. And we prefer to take a pill or a shot. And I mean, a lot of the onus should fall on American people, right? Like that's what we prefer. And that's what's being given to us, right? So.
Yeah, it's an interesting, but I think I just think about like for productivity standpoint, it's better for like companies and for education if people are like showing up at work. Like more productive, a healthier society is a more productive society. Kind of simply put. So I don't know. And any way you can like do that. I do know like the NHS, I heard a story from a friend that like 7 months to get a wrist cast.
Yeah.
It's like, well, by 7 months, it's like it might already be kind of
like fucked up.
Right. So you might just have some issues forever, like when you're waiting that long. So I mean that's not a great, and also I didn't know this, but in the UK they don't cover dental. So that's why they hate going to the dentist because it's out of pocket. So it doesn't happen as much as it should.
I think even crazier for the UK. I learned this, and it's not really talked about. But like to get like an appointment, you have to like everyone rushes at 8 o'clock in the morning to call for a lot of these places. And it's like you're on hold for like an hour just to get an appointment. And you have to do that basically every morning until you get lucky. For I think a majority of places. Like you can't book online, you can't schedule ahead. It's like day of, and you just have to keep taking days off of work if you really need something. So hopefully you get lucky to be the first person in line. Like, is that a great, and there's also no cost if you don't show up to your appointment. Like there's no penalty for it. So you can just do it. And if you have something that's minor or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? So it's like, there should like, and it blows my mind. And then people are like, well, if someone's really sick or poor and just gets an appointment, they don't show up. Like, it's like always the edge case, like this poor, incapable person can't do it. So, it's fine. Rather than like, okay, you need to have like a little stick when it's completely free. Like, why not just book up a ton of spots because you're like, super anxious about something, even though it doesn't really exist, right? Like you have to make it hurt to waste resources that are all shared. So
I remember that story about that kid that had some like disease. I think his name was Albert. And they wouldn't let him leave the country and get health care. That like kind of honestly, that really blew my mind. It was like the state controlled the child's health over the parents, or even just over anyone like offering it for free. It wouldn't cost them a thing. It was just like, no, you can't go get this whatever surgery done. And that was just like, what the fuck? So
I think like the more power you get to the government, like it could go better, but it could also be so much worse. And I think people just think like, oh, well, let's make it better. And it's like, when has government ever been involved to really make a product better? Ever in human history?
Yeah,
Never.
weapons. A lot of weapon funding.
Yeah, yeah. But governments don't do; they just buy it, right?
That's true. They just fund it.
Yeah. So I'm actually pretty pro American stuff. I don't know, like when it comes to like,
nice if the cost
whatever,
can come down.
an argument for that, but like I don't know, the shit works, right? Like I don't know.
I get it. It's just the cost. Like when I see the cost, like even paying out of pocket here, it's just like I look at the cost of things and it just kind of blows my mind. Like you can go and get if you had a teeth cleaning, 25 euros. That's crazy. I don't know.
Oh, but it's also like relative to what people make there, right?
Yeah,
You're like,
maybe that's fine.
Yeah.
Living both worlds a little bit.
My most liberal position is kind of related, I guess, but I think like free breakfast, lunch for school kids. I think that should just be universal. Like nutrition, I guess, kind of related to what you're saying, but nutrition is like, especially like for boys, you can pay better attention in class, learn, like grow better. Just like a lot of people rely on that for their only food, which is kind of like, I would just say like cut SNAP, like take the power out of poor parents and give it to like poor people just are kind of proven that they're not good at managing their life. And so I'm okay with taking power and putting it into institutions. And so
I did see recently that they're looking at like targeting like which foods you can buy on SNAP. And I know we've talked about this before, and I've definitely advocated for like, it sucks when you're in that position and you just like want to enjoy something because you live
need your own money.
But then sometimes, every time I'm at Walmart, the person in front of me, I swear this used to happen like 7 times in a row. The person in front of me would use the SNAP card. One time they dropped it and I picked it up for them. It was SNAP. And it was always just like soda and chips. Yeah. And I'm not like, again, obviously anyone can buy whatever they want, but like that is just,
it's not their money, it's the government money.
I know it's just weird to control it, but at the same time, it's just like, that's not good for you.
I think it's like we should control it.
Yeah.
I was in Philly, and this lady had 3 different SNAP cards she used, like under 3 different names, and it was completely fine. It was like, put $100 on this, 150 on this, and 100 on this, and I was like, wow, this just feels like fraud happening right in front of me. But whatever.
It probably was.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's an interesting one. I'm with you though on the kids. It is important to make that happen. I don't know how like you get them breakfast. Like, do you almost get them there early and like kind of just do the hot lunch thing and then yeah. All right, that's great. Yeah. I think honestly, school should just start a little later in the day. I always sucked like in the morning.
Yeah, but it's for parents to get to work.
I know, but like it just the first 2 hours, like walking into school and then taking a test is like shocking to my mind. Literally just like how the fuck am I going to do this? You know what I mean? And I think I got lucky a lot.
You have to realize that like, I don't think you've like internalized this point that school is not really about kids. It's like a glorifying babysitting service. So parents can get to work on jobs and like teachers get positions. And like, if kids get educated, great, but that's not the main goal.
It's so funny that you're the son of a teacher.
I mean, but like it's private, right? Like, I mean, it's a little different, but like when you look at like the things are what they currently do is what they're intended to do. Like TSA is a jobs program, like it is what it is. Let's call it a spade. You could argue if it's good or not, but I think we need to accurately label things what they are.
I mean, I do think I learned a lot going to school.
Sure.
Definitely. But
like, it's like your experience is like, if that happens, great. But that's not the main intention of the system.
Yeah. So maybe just reimagining how to make it more functional for kids. Like maybe it doesn't have to be like 8 hours of school a day. Maybe it's like 4 hours of school and lunch and breakfast and sports and social skills or finance, whatever, just like hanging out. I don't know, but then you are kind of just babysitting all of it. So getting them running. I saw them running at the gym the other day. A bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Teachers just like making them run. I'm like,
Exercise, yeah.
but yeah, I think Wisconsin just came out with their state budget, and they were doing a big push towards like feeding children. It was Tony called it the most kid-friendly budget ever. So,
Oh, that's good.
yeah. All right, moving on.
Sure.
NBA All-Star Weekend.
I didn't watch any of this. I
Did not
don't even
watch. All right. Well, I just have a little thought on this one. So
All
you
right.
know right now there's a huge discussion around the NBA in general, and I think it kind of all culminated in this weekend of just like the game is in a weird place. Everyone just like runs around and chucks threes. There's not a lot of excitement, and it's like, how are we going to fix the NBA? And I had this idea that I wanted to bring up to you to debate, because I think it sounds weird at first, but I think it actually is like an awesome idea. And
Okay.
so you have the 3-point line at 23 feet. You flip. So 2s are worth 3 and 3s are worth 2. So now you pack in, you want to attack the rim. You actually get benefited from being within the line. If you want to go out there and shoot threes and shoot 50% from 3, Steph Curry, maybe it's still a shot he would take. Probably not as much though. But now it's like we're going back to attacking the basket, dunking, post, working like to get shots open, mid-range. I don't know. I think it'd just be kind of an interesting one.
Well, we talked about this, right? Like, it was kind of just eliminate the 3-point line and add like a 4-point line.
Deeper?
Yeah, like, but I mean, because it was the same kind of focus, right? Like, just like more, like more inside stuff. But I think really the issue, like, what kind of bothers me, and I don't know, like, I think it's like we're talking about the symptoms rather than the actual issue. Like, I think one, that it doesn't start on time. Like, that is just so like way more annoying than anything else. But also it's like there's not ball movement. There's just, and I think like the NBA just leads into like it being a social media thing, right? Like people getting posterized or like the trade drama, right? Like I was so interested in all the trades, right? And that was like my peak NBA thing. And I think it like leans into it, right? It wants to be a social media sport where the actual game doesn't really matter. It's kind of like who's the GOAT, who's like top 10, you know, like all these, like who's going where, right? It's like a reality show masquerading as a sport. And for better or for worse, they've leaned into that, right? I mean, like, it's like, I think they almost like that people are saying like the NBA sucks because it's like no bad PR. There's no such thing as bad PR. It's like, at least people are talking about the NBA, you know? And it's like a thing where, I don't know, like the Twitter, social media dollars or attention to it is somehow just, they made a decision that like that's worth enough rather than people actually going to the games or whatever, you know? And so it's like how you fix it is just, I don't know, like you actually incentivize the play, you know? So it's like you could change the rules or whatever, but I don't think that really matters that much in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I agree with what you're saying. It does seem like that I don't know, like it's funny because David Stern was so hardcore and he was kind of thought about like as this kind of like this older, like not willing to change and things, but he was like hardcore about like guys wearing suits and showing up on time and like kind of the business of the sport. And now it's kind of more like social media. I don't know, younger. There's been a lot more
power, you know, it's like the inmates are running the asylum.
Yeah. And you know, like it changed. I think when you're inside of when you're a player, you're just kind of like going with it and you don't maybe understand like the full ramifications of it all. And yeah, I guess I don't know. I think it'd just be kind of fun to see. I just want to see more people like attacking the basket. I don't know. I think that's where like the fun stuff is at. Giannis would benefit. That'd be awesome.
Well, and like fouls too, right? I think, you know, that like the foul baiting, but even just like, because it just causes time away from the action, right? And I think that's like why college is nice, is that because like you just have a lot more uninterrupted play, you know? And I think that's what makes it exciting is like the two halves, and like it just doesn't feel like there's that like many fouls and commercial breaks and whatever. But it's kind of weird because NFL is like, you look at it, there's what, like maybe 5 minutes of actual gameplay a game, but like people are completely fine with it because it just feels like it matters, right? Everything matters. And I don't know, but I think just like you just got to call less fouls and start the game on time. And like, I think that kind of does more than just like the 3-point, whatever. I don't know.
Do you think that the changing of the teams, like you said, you enjoy the free agent deadline, which I thought it was fun too. It's probably the most exciting part. But do you think when there's no like loyalty to a team and kind of just around it feels a little baseball-y in a sense? Like just like everyone's gonna hop onto their teams. But it's just weird because like these guys have these crazy contracts and like the ramifications are just so wild. It's like,
but they also feel like they don't matter, like, I don't know, like, I guess the aprons, right? It kind of just felt like leading up to it was like, oh, there's not going to be this many trades happening because they're, like it's just so much harder to do it. But then it did. But I think there's like a disconnect where like people, you're almost like bullied into, you have to be a fan of just one team, right? Like, don't be a bandwagoner. Like, like if you're just a fan of a player, that's weird, right? No matter what sport it is, that's just weird. Like if you just followed, like, I mean, LeBron, maybe you could, like, that was the one person, but like say Luka, like you're gonna be made fun of if you're now a Laker fan, right? If you're a fan of Luka now it's like, where's your manhood, right? But the NBA kind of did that.
I bet a lot of Dallas fans will move over with him though, actually. Which is kind of crazy.
You think so? I don't know, but that's, to me, it's like you're pathetic if you do that. Even though I get it, but I still think you're pathetic.
Yeah, I could just see it though. I mean, Cowboys fans anyway, they're probably like barely fans to start.
Yeah, but would anyone be proud of like oh, I'm a Luka fan and I'm proud to do it? And I don't know, like that. I don't think anyone would be, right? Like you're just a fan of team first, but it's like it just doesn't align, right? Because like NBA, it's like everyone moves around. And it's really nice that we have Giannis because he's stuck with us. Like losing Chris hurt a lot, but it's like the ones like even like NFL, you have like kind of a bunch of like cuts and whatever. But I think like quarterbacks, for the most part, are pretty sticky. Where you have a guy for at least 4 years or so, and you can kind of build around that, or like it's kind of like baseball, right? Where you have like a handful of just really long-term people. And you can just do that. But I mean, like, just losing your biggest star, like, that doesn't happen, like, in sports that often, unless they're close to, like, free agency anyways, and you kind of, like, are used to it. But, like, the Luka thing, like, coming out of nowhere, that your best player could just get traded at the drop of a hat, like, I think that it completely devalues, like, why would I invest my time into this team if, like, my favorite person is just going to leave without me even like preparing for it? I think that's a real negative to NBA, and I think that really affects it.
Yeah, and that big player is such a bigger part of that team. Like baseball, 26, football, 53.
New prospect, or like, exactly, right. And
Luka's like the entire team.
I think that's a great point. That it's like one person makes or breaks the team. Yeah, and you go from playoff contention to like tanking based on one person, and I think that variance is like almost too much.
Yeah, it does make it hard. It is weird though, because it's like our guys is like obviously NBA players are good, but are those top echelon guys just like that much better?
Yeah, they are. I think they are.
They're just taking. So it's like, do you just tank every year until you get LeBron?
It's kind of like the QB thing. Like in a vacuum, that probably is the most efficient way to do it. Like it probably, but again, like that's just assuming the owners just want to win championships and all that. And again, I don't think there's not a majority of owners don't feel that way for any sport. And people like to think that they all do, but they don't. I mean, Mark Antanasio's points yesterday. Right? And it's a business. It's reality, right? It's an entertainment product first.
Yeah. And I think NBA, I mean, they've grown an incredible amount. Like the TV deals they have now, they did get pretty insane. It's funny to hear, like, Kerr was complaining the other day about playing a back-to-back and, like, traveling late at night and having to play. I'm like, dude, if you want the TV money, then you got to go with the TV schedule.
And then you can, like, compare that to Giannis, right? Where it's like, I grew up poor selling shit and, like, being on a first-class fight, like, with all this amenities. Like, it's so hard to, you know, and I think that plays, like, the NBA is like the softest people, you know, like it's kind of like it represents the younger generation in like the worst ways possible. And like younger people don't really watch network TV or sit down. They're just on their phones making TikToks. And it's like, sure, it's cool, but you're not really, you know, like building that long, you know, like there's still like old people drive all the steady shit, right? And it's like completely disregarding them. You know, kind of doesn't do well for, you know, stable growth. But I guess, like you said, you know, the media deals go up. So it's like it kind of is working, kind of not working. I don't know.
Yeah. It's probably the best sport for like highlights, I would say. Like you get every game, there's just so much you can put on there.
Yeah, like a sick dunk, right? I mean, nothing, well, like other than a home run, but still, like probably a sick dunk overrules everything.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe to fix it, you like make the court 2 times as big and you have like 10 people on a team.
Let's get freaky. I don't know. They should have more fun. One of their ideas was to do a one-on-one tournament next year at the All-Star for $1 million. The women did that this year. I think a one-on-one would be kind of fun, but it's just annoying because all the players are like, oh, I don't really want to try because they don't want to lose. Their egos are too big. They don't want to enter the dunk contest because they don't want to lose. Like, it's kind of weird that they're afraid. Their egos are so scared, and they get injuries and stuff too. But like they're dunking all the time, so but it's like they're too afraid to just like compete at things besides like the 3-point contest.
Yeah, because it's like whatever, right?
Yeah,
it's like you only get competition in the finals, and that's, I mean, for a sport, right? That's just sad.
Yeah, it is weird. Maybe make it work. Maybe give them like home field, like baseball did. You give them home field.
It's just like the regular season has to matter. You know, it just has to. I think. I mean, like currently, it just doesn't.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Brewers reported to camp last week. The boys are back. I will say this: the Brewers social media team, Twitter, has been like really awesome. William Contreras, Nestor, Freddie, like all the they're just doing so. It's just fun to see all the guys back, and they're just the drills, everything, every little bit of like highlight. I'm just like eating up right now.
And I think her like signature is pretty classy too.
Yeah. Murphy gave a nice speech yesterday on Bob Uecker. I did think it was kind of funny. I'm like, I don't think Murphy gives a lot of speeches. You know, it kind of just was like, you know, for the guys that knew him, he was a great guy. And for the guys that didn't know him, he was a good guy too. It's like, okay.
And this, I guess, it was weird too, like having like Mark there, you know, because I feel like part of the team, but I don't know. I feel like you just can't be like as real too, right?
Your boss.
Yeah.
Sitting behind you. I just threw a couple things up here. But you want to go through anything else you want to do? First order of business, our man Sal Frelick, Mr.
Yeah.
The Italian flying right fielder. He put on 20-some pounds in the offseason, ate everything in sight. He had 2 home runs last year and had the lowest average EV in baseball. So I think, you know, you just want to change that, right? So he put on some weight. What do you think? What are you expecting out of Sal this year?
I don't know, like just an average dude. You know, I think like the play, like it's like the ceiling just is just it's like he's just such a boring player, and like that's fine. You need that, but like, and I kind of get excited, right? Because I think you can be successful, and like the Brewers have always done a good job of like, it's kind of like Moneyball in the modern age, right? Where you just it's like finding the OPB guys. That was just such a huge chunk of how you can be better. But now it's like people are getting smarter and smarter where it's like those little niches or whatever. And like I do think that like just being on base and stealing a ton of bases and having great defense like that, like that can play, right? And you look at like don't strike out, get base on balls. I do think that like if you hit ground balls, fine, but like just don't do double plays, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of like, you have to be really coordinated about like stealing first when they're kind of running, and so I don't know. I think it can work.
His Savant page is nuts. It's like really good or really bad at everything. Yeah. It's like,
but like crazy. This is like really cheap, really good, And I think like that's a reality, right? That like I mean, we have like I mean, I think Garrett Mitchell actually could be like a superstar. I really do. Like, and I heard like the drive line, like his weakness is like Hira, right? Where he can't hit fastballs up top. And if he figures that out, like Garrett Mitchell can be, a superstar, right? The chase is great. The walks is great. The whiffs and Ks aren't so good. But like, if you figure out the top of the zone, like everything can just be, and like a full season of being healthy too. Like he could be a true 5-tool player. Look at that hit chart, right? Like goes all over the field. I don't know. I'm very I think like Garrett Mitchell is really important, right? And Churio, like Yelich, like not having any restrictions is important. I think Joey Ortiz, like not having that neck issue, like his before and after, like he was on track, like, and he still had a really good season himself. So, and like Oliver Dunn, like there's still something there, and like Tyler Black, like his bat is like pretty great. Like it's pretty enticing. It really is, and William Contreras, like kind of cool, just kind of consensus best catcher in MLB, right?
I know that was awesome when ESPN named him #1. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, right. McGill, right? Like our bullpen should continue to be elite. Starting pitching is like, I mean, we did fine with like 18 people last year, right? Like, I think that was probably the worst injury luck ever for pitching, and it worked out.
I think it's like, honestly, when you look at it, like, like Woody's back, maybe, but Woody should be available. Nestor Cortez, I think, honestly, is going to be a really nice pickup for us.
Like, especially our defense, I think we underestimate, like, sure, it's a pitching lab, but like when you play within a like top 3 defense in MLB, right? Like, we'll say that. I think you can say that pretty conclusively. Yeah. Just pitching, like Colin Ray is going to not be that good just alone because Chicago's defense just isn't as good as ours is.
Yeah. Do we have any weakness on the field? Maybe first base?
Well, it's like third base, whoever does that. Yeah.
But those are kind of the position. I mean, it's the corners, but like those are kind of the positions where it's like, third base, you need to get at the good arm, and they're, hopefully make some plays.
Like Reese at like first, but maybe, an extra more time. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not expecting a lot from Reese.
I think he's going to hit 30 homers for us with.
He's just so fucking slow, and like he can't, like he gets exploited by pitches he used to get, and so it's just high K, high chances of like doing double plays, and
I think my concern, and I guess my concern is about the double plays, which is always such killers. That's where I'm hoping like Sal putting on some weight, just hitting the ball a little harder. I guess maybe that would be, sometimes it'd be worse because you hit faster. But like, hopefully you can just get a couple that like get through, a couple harder plays, just a couple more doubles. Like, he doesn't need to hit 20 home runs this year for me to be happy, but just a little more power, I think. And he too said like, as the season went on, your body's like breaking down. You're playing every day. You're running into walls. And I think it'll be nice for him just to be a little more bulked up for the end of the season.
Yeah.
Get on some steroids. Barry Bonds this shit out. That would be good.
Ryan Braun. Yeah.
Barone. So DL banged up to start. Not ideal. Good news is we're not really relying on the guy. I mean, he's kind of like just a nice add-on at this point, which is okay. I mean, I kind of see him more as a reliever, like a nice mid reliever with some nasty stuff right now. Gasser is pitching, but he's
Yeah, like August, I think it's said he come back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
he's
kind of sucks. And then Ashby, is he okay?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay, yeah. I think our bullpen should be nasty. Our starters, I think, like underrated. Savali, I think, will have another good year for us. He pitched really well for us. Like when he came over, he was a night and day from. Nestor solid, Freddie solid. If Woody, all right. So I was playing OTP. Woody pitched in the sim. He pitched like 33 games. I think he had like a 4.2 ERA. He was throwing 94 to 96, and he had a 2.5 WAR. Would you be happy with that if Woody did that this year?
I will. I think it's more just like how many innings can he give us, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, even like on our 40-man and non-roster. So Logan Henderson is on the 40-man. Pretty exciting stuff there. We got Connor Thomas in the Rule 5 from the Cardinals, and so like that person just has to be on the squad. And his like stuff is actually pretty good. Lefty had a.
That's a big thing if you take a guy Rule 5. So we must really like.
Yeah, like you basically commit to him, or that you have to give him back. But he had a 2.89 ERA last year. 56 games, 9 innings pitched, 79 strikeouts to 24 walks, which is fantastic. So like I think he can be a guy, right? Like kind of under the radar. I think he could be like a Tobias Myers type of guy. And Chad Patrick has some pretty intriguing stuff too. Whip 1.09, really good for in AAA. He did that in Nashville and 136 innings pitched. So that could also be a kind of dark horse starter again for us. So we got like, it seems like a couple like potential Tobias Meyer guys there. And our bullpen, feels pretty good. Uribe, right? Like his stuff was filthy, hopefully serves his thing, but can do some time. Nick Mears has like one of the best pitches in MLB. Kind of funny. He's like Matt Bush, where you like dream on him if it works works out pretty well. And yeah, Koenig, Hudson, Payam, Spagaro, McGill, like, I don't know, like our bullpen should be, still looks really good. Eric Haas, Jefferson Carroll, like he's a stud, right? Like defense is super good, power there. Like I don't know, like he has a chance to beat out Eric Haas for backup already.
He did.
Yeah, well, so he's on the 40-man, and like he's, had a spring training, like definitely it's like him versus Haas, and like I think they're willing to give him the run. Like he's like, he's like, I think he said he's like 85% of the way back already. So, yeah, I mean, I think he most likely opens a year in AAA just to kind of get back in the swing of things. But there's a chance he could win the job.
Is Yoho on the 40-man or not yet?
Who?
Yoho?
No, but he has a spring training invite.
Okay, cool. I'm really excited. Is our first game a couple days, right? Next.
Yeah, I think it's this weekend actually.
Just like 3 days, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Yelich, we got. You think Yelich DHs this year or no? I know
he's like, so I remember like I saw that his big thing is like he likes playing in the outfield because it keeps him locked in, and I think he's earned the right to demand that. Like defensive wise, like if it like in an ideal scenario, right? You do Garrett, Churio, Sal, and then Yelich DHs. But I don't think that will happen because like Yelich being the group, right? So like I guess I think Sal's probably the one that gets pushed out, and not to mention like Blake Perkins too, right?
So wait, is it Churio and right then, and Mitchell center, and Yelich?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think that's what they probably would do.
What about Reese, DHing, and Dunn at first?
Well, then who would you do at third?
Durbin
Black,
or
Durbin.
Black. I'm hoping Black can maybe. I'm a little concerned because I've never seen Black. I've never thought Black could take the step to be a starting third baseman. He's a great hitter. I love his hitting. I think he brings a great energy. He runs the bases hard. Hitting is totally fine, but they obviously see something there. So
yeah, I could see Black, or honestly, I could see shit.
Mike Bevy?
I can see Caro DHing too.
Oh, yeah. I guess,
yeah.
I mean, the nice
also, I really do think Ernesto Martinez Jr. is you got to watch for 6'6", lefty bat, 250, 25 years old, had a phenomenal end to last year, and kind of I think kind of out of options, or not out of options, but kind of coming down to it. But he because we're gonna need power, right? And so the Sal DH and the Durbin DH, that's not gonna get you power, right? And Dunn gets you power, gets you power. I think that DH is really gonna be a power bat,
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I really see Yelich. It just makes so much sense for Yelich to get there. I think he's going to have to DH at times.
Yeah,
just reality. But I agree with you though. That does seem to be our one spot where we're just because we have so much speed and kind of on base guys, but we need to add some power to the lineup. And could Caro play defense and Contreras DH too?
I think that's definitely a thing. I know. Contreras really likes to play every day, but because Caro's if his arm is completely fine, his defense is pretty phenomenal, right? That's his calling card. So I could see that being Contreras doing 4 games of the week, Caro doing 2. When last year, Contreras I think it was top 3 in terms of catching games he did. So I mean that's a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah. One thing I like about our team is baseball to me, it's you want to slot everyone and just run with it, but it's going to take 30, probably 31, 32 guys throughout the season to compete. And, that's the kind of it'll work itself out and guys will play. There's so many games that you're going to mix guys in and out. And baseball nowadays, guys play multiple positions all the time. And, maybe we even see Terang over at third randomly if Durbin plays second.
I think probably Terang would maybe slide more to short. I don't think he has the arm to do third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe Ortiz back at third every now and then, but I mean, I think it'll work itself out, and I'm just excited because I do really like our depth and talent. And I think we're gonna push each other well. It seems like we have a lot of guys waiting to kind of see who comes out of it, but someone's going to have to come out of it and kind of step up.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
I hope, I guess.
I mean, I think kind of if you just get, because Mazeroski's a non-roster invite, and so chance that he just does bullpen, and talk about him, McGill, Koning, right? Mears, Figueroa, Ashby, Uribe. I mean, they're just for the 7th, 8th, 9 guys, you have 6, 7, 8 guys that just have such good stuff that lockdown. The bullpen, I think, is the one area that I just feel the best about, by far, just because we just have so much good options there. You can kind of do maybe the Brian Hudson thing, right? Where you can do the spot starters. And last year, we just I think we were one of the worst teams in qualified starts, and I that kind of is an okay thing, right? Your starters are not being forced to go so long and you just have so many bullpen arms. I think we might do the same thing this year where, have Aaron Ashby pitch 4 or 5 innings. I think you'd be a little bit better where you can just be filthy at it, and then you just do more bullpen, right? We just other than Kobe Myers, kind of Freddie, we didn't really
we get rocked that 3rd time through, so I love that anyway. Just it just doesn't go well for us. So
Yeah, like the third, yeah, exactly. The third time through always screws us. So, and I think like they really play into that where starters are only going to go, 2 in a little bit time, and then just go to the bullpen.
And some of our bullpen dudes definitely have the stamina to go a couple innings and get us over the edge. We even have some guys. I mean, we're in a 5-man rotation. There's probably someone in there that's going to get bounced that could go. I don't know, start on a 6-day, open up and go 3 innings. Because DL, wasn't he kind of like was he a follower or he kind of opened last year a couple times?
Yeah, opener. Yeah, and like his fastball like lost a couple ticks and it just became pretty bad. And so like him as like I think his starter career I don't feel so good about, and I think kind of turned towards like injured bust territory.
Thank God we got Ortiz.
Yeah, we got Ortiz, and that pick too, and like I mean it's a 1-year rental, right? And I think
that's true.
Like it always hurts to lose a guy, but I mean think about like what they traded for Tucker, and he walks. I mean they like the Cubs gave up some like pretty enticing prospects. Like seems like possibly the long-term third baseman of the future for the Astros. So
is that Paredes?
No, not Paredes. Like Paredes is good, and like, but I think that Cam Smith they gave up is kind of a stud. But so kind of a little different tack, kind of interesting. So I was listening to the Brewer Fanatic podcast, and they went through. It's like a new thing I think Baseball Perfectus put out, and it's just like how much like it's like a surprise factor for pitchers, like thinking, like not sure what pitch is going to be thrown, right? And like then that kind of like your pitch may not be that good, but if you don't know, it's going to take your brain a little bit to guess what it is, and then it's going to be hard for you to like make good contact on it. And it was kind of interesting that our rotation, other than Freddie Peralta last year, he was the only starter that had above average stuff plus. Everyone else was like kind of terrible in the stuff metrics for starters, but all of our players were phenomenal in the disguise factor. And Colin Ray was like one of the best at it. Like his stuff was terrible, but because he just has like the whole kitchen sink mentality and like how he can like with just how he can like just and the rest. And I thought that was pretty interesting and like why he could do all right. And like that's why I think our stars are so bad at going through a third time through the order, so that this guy's like factor wears off, right? And it's kind of interesting that our bullpen was like the exact opposite, just complete stuff animals. The surprise was terrible, but like it's just you just have like 1 or 2 really great pitches that you can do, and it's like literally I think almost every bullpen guy, and that's why I'm thinking like Mizurowski is going to be bullpen because he fits that to a T. And like so just kind of interesting how we set it up where it's like basically starters, disguise. You're going to run that for 2 times the order and then go to your flamethrower, nasty freaks in the bullpen. And it worked pretty well last year. So kind of interesting.
And I think it's honestly kind of it's a way of playing that sets up well for the playoffs too. Like come playoff time, you kind of lean more on like, you're not letting a guy go, and just like pitch forever. Like you're going to take him out probably a little quicker, and you're going to put in like your nasty bullpen guys. So it's almost like we play kind of a playoff style baseball throughout the year. And I like it. I think it helps us a lot. And especially like you got to play to your strengths, right? Like we're going to probably be in a lot of lower scoring kind of battles that need to like manufacture runs a little bit, and 1 or 2 runs here or there that we can stop because our bullpen makes that difference. I think will probably help us win the division this year,
Yeah.
What is a little quick projection in our standings for you? What do you got, Sam?
Oh, so I will go to that projection. Actually, so here, while I'm looking this up, who do you think is the fattest person on our 40-man right now? The heaviest person?
Heaviest person, I'm going to go with Contreras.
No. Contreras is 212, 5'11", and he's like probably not even top. And like just definitely think of height here.
Yelich?
Nope.
Yelich
Yelich.
was 6'4".
Yeah, not Yelich.
Oh, it's our pitcher. Is it Migo?
Yeah. Trevor Vigo, 6'8", 255.
Yeah, I forgot about it.
And kind of interesting, we have 3 6'8" pitchers.
And
Migo,
this is
255. Brian Hudson, 6'8", 220. And then Grant Wolfram, 6'8", 240. And then Yuzurowski, 6'7", 190. Kind of a twig.
I didn't realize Hudson was that big.
Yeah, me either. And like, and Wolfram, right? And like lefties, right? Just kind of going through, like
Randy Johnson.
Wolfram was like I kind of just like went over him, but like 6'8", you know,
leverage.
Like, kind of interesting. And like you look at his numbers, 20 this Wolfram guy, 3.34 ERA, 56 innings pitched, WHIP at 1.29, average 226, strikeout, I think, or percent of pitches strikes 630. Seems kind of good. Kind of interesting. 28 years old. Yeah, so it seems like we have a type of like super tall because our highest starter Woody at 6'4".
Okay, yeah. Nestor's pretty small.
Yeah, he is kind of small.
Yeah,
5'11", 210.
Yeah, Freddie. I think Freddie's like pretty normal height.
Yeah,
we kind of have. I bet we're one of the shorter teams in baseball. Like maybe besides those pitchers, but
yeah, I think our bullpen seems kind of tall. But yeah, I don't know. Like, can't really talk about it. But yeah,
it is interesting. Durbin's not helping.
No, he's not.
I like Migo last year, didn't he like faint and hit his head and get concussed and he was out? And like he just falls so far when he's 6'8".
And that's like classic like baseball, right? Where like just
did you see the story about Dustin May? What happened to him last year? He had season-ending throat surgery. Did you read this?
No,
so
I didn't.
He ate some lettuce and a piece of lettuce cut his throat. And he had to get season-ending throat surgery.
What the fuck? That's only baseball.
Dude, like I've never even thought lettuce could possibly do that.
And maybe like lettuce that had like nails in it or something. I don't know.
Crazy. Like
to go to your projections. So NL Central has Chicago win 91 games, 88% chance to go to the playoffs. Milwaukee 80 games, 21% chance to go to the playoffs.
Disrespectful.
St. Louis 77, Pittsburgh 74, Cincinnati 74. Interesting. Kind of looking around. LA 103, Arizona 87. Houston 87, Texas 90, Atlanta, New York 90. Atlanta's 93, New York's 91. Philly's only 85, which that feels light to me.
Yeah.
Boston was supposed to be last in the AL East, which is kind of surprising.
Damn, and they just signed Bregman too.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of good teams this year. It just feels like baseball is like tough right now. Like there's just a lot of super talented. I don't know if it's a lot of super talented guys or. I mean, yeah, but it just seems like there's a lot of parity. And I know the Dodgers, like everyone's freaking out about the Dodgers, but there's like the Mets are going to be good, the Yankees are going to be good, we're going to be good. So
Atlanta bounced back, right? They had like a really weird season last year. The Braves did.
Yeah, I think the Diamondbacks had some nice signings this year, and they've been a pretty good team.
Corbin Carroll had like a terrible start, like god awful start to the season. Like fluky, and like the World Series hangover. I think that's a real thing. Like San Diego, like they're just weird, right? Minnesota, like the Hill Central is kind of crazy. It's like 87 for Minnesota, Kansas City's 81, Cleveland 79, Detroit 78, and White Sox 62.
Didn't Detroit get pretty hot and play?
Yeah, and like they have a lot of young talent. Like they're kind of like, and there's like, it just feels like maybe I'm just like more in tune because doing the Dynasty stuff, but it just feels like a lot of like cool young talent, right? Like you got Skeens, Job, Potential, Merrill, Curio, you know, who else?
Michael Harris.
Bobby Witt, you know, like I guess like probably the Cardinals are going to be rocking a lot of young people. Jordan Walker,
Mason Wynn.
Yeah, Ivan Herrera, catcher for them. New Bar, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fun. Is Amaya catching for the Cubs?
What?
Is Amaya catching for the Cubs? Miguel Amaya? Or?
No, I think they signed someone. Let's look at their.
And then you got like
I think Cubs
Ellie
catcher. Like, it's a trade. Like they have all these guys, but like the Bell Astros guy, like they're kind of like their big catcher. Just I don't know. Like just they don't have like a good catcher at all.
I saw Contreras, Wilson Contreras is moving to first base, and I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, it's kind of getting older. I mean, that was a terrible deal, but
well, yeah, just like for what they paid him, like you just thought he'd be a solid. Yeah, that just has not gone well.
No, it hasn't.
He was always kind of a little bit of a hothead. All right, can I ask you one question while you looked it up? How are you going to feel when the Brewers tweet out the opening day lineup and Andrew Monasterio is starting at third base?
Dude, if that happens, Jesus, you know, like Christ. I don't know, but like when we went over like the projections, like Monty just has like I could totally see him just having an insane season somehow, you know, because he's just like fucking Joker, you know. Okay, so have you heard that theory? Like it was like an internet thing of like the Jar Jar Binks being a Sith.
Yeah, I think I did see that.
And I think like that's kind of like Monasterio type situation. Where like I could see like he just reminds me of the Jar Jar Binks potentially being a Sith. Like just like having this like insane talent somehow that gets unlocked just randomly.
I think one of our listeners might throw his phone through the wall.
Well, because he's a casual and doesn't know ball, yeah.
I'm looking at Monty Savant. He's just he could get better, but 11% walk rate, love that. And that's about all I got. But I don't know. There's just something about him. It just seems like the coaches trust him. I don't know. Is it the glasses, maybe?
I think it's like he just has a fun attitude. I mean, his attitude is really great. Like he's just happy to be there. Like no ego. Probably the least amount of ego person.
Yeah. 27. I mean, in 2023, he batted 259. Last year, he's 208. If he goes back to 259 in 300 plate appearances, I mean, I'd love that. Like, that's an awesome dude to have on your bench.
So looking at the Cubs, right? So Kyle Tucker, projected to have a 145 WRC plus. That's pretty incredible. 5 WAR season
in Chicago.
Yeah, Kyle Tucker. So Dansby Swanson, 102 WRC plus, 3.7 WAR defense. But it's kind of interesting looking at like their defense. Yeah. Like Dansby's 12.1, I guess, part of like whatever it's a factor in it. Carson Kelly is their second best projected defense. I don't even know what that is. Pete Crow Armstrong's third. Nico, and then like Amaya.
Kelly's the catcher, dude. Kelly's the catcher.
Oh, okay. So like it seems like that's what they have is like Amaya and Carson Kelly. There's strong defensive catchers that provide like 90 WRC plus offense. And like I guess it's like the Contreras or like the Yachty thing. Like I think that can kind of work,
Maldonado. I think it works pretty well if a guy can call a good game and play good defense. And I think Carson Kelly has a really good eye, so he has a pretty high on base percentage.
Okay.
And he still has a couple years left of his options.
Okay.
Or not options, but arbitration. So he's
so he's a young guy. It's kind of interesting though. Looking at their base running, they only have like Nico Horner and like because I was looking to trade for him. He's just like a really interesting guy because His K rate is like one of the lowest in that, MLB. Only
Great
6% walk rate. But like he just doesn't strike out, and he like 2.4 base running, which is like pretty decent. But like no pop, but like that's his by far the base runner. Like Pete Crow and Kyle Tucker and Dansby, like they only have like 4 decently good base runners. Everyone else is just average to below average. And like Seiya Suzuki is kind of interesting. His defense is so bad, -13. His offense is good, but like I didn't realize how bad his defense was. Same thing with Michael Bush. Ian Happ's defense is actually -6.6. He's projected for I didn't realize his defense because he was a Gold Glover, I think, right?
He wins a Gold Glove like every year, and he's trash.
Yeah, right. Like that's
something weird going on there.
Yeah,
I think PCA will be good. Horner's one of the better defenders for sure.
Yeah,
Kelly and catcher will be good. Swanson is he considered a pretty good defender still? I mean, we'll see how he ages.
Like the defenders look pretty good. I guess let's look at for like shortstop.
His hitting's getting a little iffy, but he probably has a good eye still. That contract's not going to age well though. Like he's already like on the verge of like I don't know. What do you do? Move him to? You can't even move him anywhere. Like what do you do when Dansby Swanson's 36 years?
Interesting. Nico Horner is projected for higher WAR than Dansby Swanson is at shortstop. Just looking at all eligible shortstops. Nico Horner's at 10. Dansby's at 13.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Would Dansby move to 7 though? Fine.
No, he wouldn't. It's just too much money. Yeah.
It's funny how like when it comes to money, then it also like kind of lacks the end position. It's like, well, you're paying him a lot. He can't play over there. It's like, yeah, but what if he's not good?
Well, so his defense is actually second best projected in the league at 17.5. Ezekiel Tovar is projected to be the best defender among shortstops.
Yeah, they locked him in early.
Mason McCoy somehow is the third best projected defender. I have a weird list. Guess who is projected to be the 12th best defensive shortstop in 2025?
12th best in the Javi Baez.
No, it's a Brewer.
Joey Ortiz.
No.
Not Terrain.
No.
Shortstop. Durbin? Not Durbin.
No.
Monasterio.
No.
Who even else is on the list of possible?
Think of spring roster invites.
Cooper Pratt.
Cooper fucking Pratt. Yeah. Yeah. Cooper Pratt. It's projected to be the 12th best defensive shortstop in MLB. Willie Adames is 14th best defensive shortstop.
Dude, Cooper is like 6'4" too, which I kind of love. Like
and he won like the best defensive glove thing for in minor leagues.
Yeah, dude, he could be a freak. Like hitting wise, he was a good hitter too.
Yeah, like I'm again, like he said, that person completely ruled out, 0 chance, makes cracks opening day, but his defense is super good. We've had a history of letting young guys play. There could totally be a scenario where you just keep Joey and Turang at their respective positions, and then just Cooper Pratt play shortstop.
Dude, this is crazy. I opened up his Savant, and the scouting thing is like the first thing it says is Gunnar Henderson went 42nd overall in the draft and quickly developed. Scouts see a lot of similarities between Henderson and Pratt. It's like, dude, Could you imagine?
I know. And so when he got promoted, he just tapped into all this power. Like, I mean, there's a potential. Okay, so here's an interesting thing I looked at too. I'm going to find this. So you look at
20 years old.
Yeah. So Fangraphs released actually today, like building consensus top hitting prospect list by peak projected OPS plus. So some of the names are interesting. Eric Bianchi is like top 12 at 119. Best Brewer projected, and then just slightly under him. Luke Adams is at 118. And what other Brewers are there?
Luke Adams. Okay.
Yeah,
He's
he's kind of like his. We talked about him a little bit. Like it's kind of crazy. He just doesn't swing at anything, but the things he does swing at is like good. And Mike Bove too is also on that list. But yeah, just kind of interesting.
Mike Bove, yeah. I don't know what yeah. Dude, is part of that just like our first base? Reese is out after this year, probably, right?
100%.
Okay. I think that I'm honestly, I know we got this year to do, but I'm actually really excited for the first base battle next year. I feel like it's going to be kind
of first and third, yeah. Like you have Bo, Pianti, Luke Adams. There's like another one too.
I love our team building so much because it just makes it so exciting to see like who's gonna like next fill in the spot. You know what I mean? It's right? Our organization hasn't been built in like such a fun way, and we're not spending, but it still is just so exciting with like all like the rosters and like the your guys and like Jesus Mate and all this.
I know, right? Just like coming out of nowhere and like being like at this point better than Churio was.
Yeah, that's freaking nuts. I mean,
like we could have a better Churio. Like I think just thinking that, I think he's a switch hitter too, which is
switch hitter. Yeah, shortstop right now too.
Yeah, and like what's kind of crazy too is Luis Pena had better stats than Jesus Mott did.
Yeah, and he's also what 18?
18. Had like. Just like I mean, his like exit numbers like weren't as gaudy, but they're still like if you just like if Jesus Mott just didn't exist, people would be like, oh my god, Luis Pena is like a fucking superstar too. Like he's also like incredible numbers.
He's already top 10 in our org as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty crazy.
Right? Like, he had 393. He had 393 home run, 36 RBI, and 39 stolen bases in 44 games. Like that's pretty fucking incredible.
Insane.
And walked as much as he struck out. And 6 triples, 16 doubles. Like pretty and like apparently his defense is also really good. So and that's not even mentioned, right? Like Durbin, you know, like we kind of like he's like an afterthought, but like he has some of the best hitting numbers in all of the minors, right?
Yeah, dude.
And like skills are fantastic. Yeah.
Durbin's ready to rock. I'm really high on Durbin. I don't know. I just like his profile. I like that he's like a hard worker. He's a grinder. I think he's just gonna like Horner. He reminds me a lot of Horner. I don't know if he'll be as good defense.
Super valuable.
But like someone like that, is awesome. Here's a random dude. So he's coming. A friend sent me this. He's coming from Japan next year. First baseman. His name is Munetake Murakami, 25 years old right now. First baseman. He's going to be a little cheaper because he's got some holes in his game. But look at this year he put up right here, 2022. 56 homers.
Jesus.
134 RBIs, 1.168 OPS.
Wow, and the walks to strikeouts is pretty incredible.
Yeah, even his down years. I mean, 244 last year with a 472 slugging and 33 homers. Like
25 walks. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I really want us to like just do a little something in the Asian market because we got to get.
He's going to be a Dodger.
We got to get a little going over there.
Yeah.
So the next Sasaki wants to sign with us.
Nice.
But it's just a fun stuff.
Like looking at, I'm just kind of going through like stuff, you know. So kind of interesting. Looking at first base projections, Rhys Hoskins is projected the 51st best first baseman. Tyler Black is projected the 38th best.
That hurts me a little bit.
Does that hurt? Yeah.
Like who's near him? Who are the guys near him? I just want to hear their names.
All right. Justin Turner, the exact same WAR of -1. Carlos Santana, a little bit better, 1.1.
I would have loved Carlos Santana this year.
I know, right? Like his defense. Yeah, like
I would trade.
Mark Cannon at 0.7. Mark Cannon's still a free agent, it looks like. Oh, Anthony Rizzo's still a free agent. Dang. And Patrick Rizzo is too.
Where's Jesus Aguilar these days?
I think he's out.
Really? He's not playing?
Ben Rice only. I'm kind of excited about Ben Rice. I have him on fast, and I have to decide if I want to keep him. But I guess just looking at offense, let's see. I just traded Jonathan Hernandez. I don't know if I should have because he is like projected the 7th best first baseman. So maybe I got fleeced there, which kind of sucks. I don't really like saying that. Yeah, Reese Hoskins, just offense alone, 32nd best first baseman, just behind Josh Bell. And Salvy Perez projected to be the 30th best first baseman, which kind of, he's kind of old and fat, right?
Yeah. I think he plays a decent amount of catcher though, still, doesn't he?
Yeah, but like, I think
they got a new guy coming.
They kind of have to, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Brewers spring, exciting stuff. Anything else? Feeling good?
Yeah.
We'll definitely recap as the games get going and like all the exciting stuff going on. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So, but a lot of good stuff there. I'm pumped. Let's go through. Do it for you. Also, our patches on our jerseys were just beautiful.
That's nice.
So, moving on. Dopamine.
Dopamine. All right.
Well, this was a quick one. I'll just kind of explain it. But
I like that we're completely changing gears. That's fun.
Yeah, completely. Dopamine. We're just going back and forth because there's more sports too. So, dopamine. I was listening to this podcast by Huberman, and it was about how like craving for things kind of gets us to do, like motivates us to do pretty much everything we do. It's like you crave it, and that actually releases dopamine, just craving it. And then when you get whatever you're going for, so historically it was always like food, sex, water. Now we've advanced society so much, it's getting a little odd. So he was going through like the effects of dopamine. So when you have sex, your dopamine increases by 100%. So it doubles the amount of dopamine in your mind, doubles. And I was like, well, I was thinking when he said that, like that sex would be probably one of the higher, right? Kind of like the ultimate continue of the species. And then he's like, nicotine, 150%. And I was like, and then cocaine, methamphetamine, 1,000%. In within 10 seconds of doing cocaine, you get 1,000% increase in dopamine.
And like imagine my mind, right? Because I take Adderall, and I've there's been times, right, where I've had sex with a nicotine mint in my mouth on Adderall, like a triple whammy.
So your come down from that is just like
well, it's like I just don't never come down. I just always just stay torqued.
You just need more Adderall. Yeah. It was pretty interesting. So I was thinking about it though, because he was talking about how like video games is a big one now, and a lot of it's like it's novelty. So it's like it's like new. So say you go to a new, like what I think about is like Skyrim. You have this open world and you're discovering new things and you're doing new quests and everything's just like new all the time. So you're getting all this new feedback. But I was kind of like thinking about it, and I just connected this, and I was like, is that what the news cycle is? Is it just like, is the 2 and 3 day news cycle? Because obviously like the news is kind of just like giving people what they want to read about things. And we like focus on things for 2 to 3 days, and then we jump onto something new. And I think it's just like an addiction to dopamine being released by whatever it is. But I think that's pretty much what our entire like society news cycle. It's all like this addiction to dopamine release at the end of the day.
Yeah, like it'd be interesting, like fear, right? You know, like people watching the true crime stuff. Fear of like Trump, right? If you're like a super liberal, like, oh my God, Trump is gonna, whatever, right? Like how your brain, like I would imagine your brain is like firing on all cylinders for that.
So it just makes you feel like alive and stuff. I don't know. It's like,
it just, so right? Because it's like one of the most powerful motivator. And it's like, oh, like I'm just so in like it's like why I think people crave it, right? Because it's like if you just kind of have like a boring life, you know, like say you're 26-year-old girl working in marketing behind a desk, like, you know, that's follows all the fashion trends. Like you haven't done anything, you haven't stepped outside your comfort zone or been like unique in any way. You know, like you're gonna have to chase a high somehow, and I think you chase it in like the fear, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's interesting. It was interesting just thinking about. And then he was saying too how like there's an equal pain associated with it. So you actually can notice that, and I haven't tried this, but he said you can notice it like if you're eating something you really enjoy, like chocolate, you can actually like feel a little bit of pain in your mind. And that pain is to like get you to crave more. So like it's like you release the dopamine by getting it, and then you get this little bit of pain, and then you're like, okay, well, I need more chocolate to then like, so it's like this back and forth and back and forth. But he was saying how it kind of like, so say that first time you get, I don't know, 100% dopamine hit. The second time you eat something, maybe you get 90%. It slowly like trickles down, and then you're looking for something different. So I think that's where like
trying to keep chase that high.
Yeah. So like as it gets boring, as the news cycle gets boring or whatever, you start looking for like the next whatever thing to chase after. I don't know, just kind of
like spicy food too, right? Where it's probably like both those things at once.
Yeah, for sure. It's just weird to think about like so much of our society and decision making and voting and all these things kind of just come down to like the chemistry of our brains and how like emotional we feel and all these.
Well, I mean, isn't chemistry of your brain just thought, right? Like the chemistry in your brain produces thoughts.
No, for sure. But it's like we like to think we control it a lot, but I don't know if like you actually are controlling it as much as.
I don't think we control it at all. I think we have like so much less control than we like to think. We don't really like thinking about how much control that we have.
Exactly. I think like our dopamine is kind of running the show, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like think of just how much money is spent on advertising, right?
Yeah. And then the other thing was, I think you said it was our prefrontal.
Yeah.
It's like a lot bigger than animals, and that's like the planning. So when we were talking about last episode about how like we like to humanize animals, but they pretty much have like no idea of anything going on or any future foresight, and we're much more like forward thinking. It was just kind of interesting. There was a test that they did with mice, where they actually took out dopamine. They they took away the ability for their brain to produce dopamine, and they put them in front of a lever, and if you push the lever, food would come out and you'd eat. So they took the mice with dopamine and mice without, and they put them in front of the lever, and they both still hit the lever and ate it. Then they took the mice and they moved them over just one body length. And the mouse that didn't have dopamine didn't move over to touch the lever. But the mice that did have dopamine, they have that motivation, drive to move and get the food. So it's kind of interesting just, I don't know, listening to that.
That was interesting.
Yeah. And then you're trying to, he said that like if you're trying to kind of like hack your brain a little bit, what you want to do is like not give yourself a huge treat all the time when you do well, because then you get too used to like craving and then crashing and craving and crashing, and you try to stay on a little bit more of a levelness most of the time. So
kind of funny how everything ends up going back to like age-old wisdoms of like everything's good in moderation.
I know, it is funny. It's like the more you learn, the more you're like, oh,
the more things stay the same. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just thought that one was interesting. Moving on. The asteroid. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, it's like 3.1% now, like the highest ever.
Highest ever. There's an asteroid way out in space, and it has a 3.1% chance of hitting Earth in the year 2032. I actually saw there's like a line of on Earth where it is, and I felt bad. It was like in all these poor areas and like these poor cities. But of course, Africa's going to get fucking nailed.
Yeah.
2032. What do you think? Are you nervous about it?
Well, I think one thing is like it's so like how impressive is it that we can like track all these objects and like that we know about it, right? Like that's kind of like I guess I didn't realize that so it's like we can track all the shit, but then we can't predict the weather, like and like that's to me is just the mental disconnect of, oh, we know an asteroid has this percent chance of hitting it and it's this far in the future and it's like this size and where it's going to come, but we can't predict weather patterns, like it's just that just blows my mind. Like we're just so good at some things, but then we're so poor at other things that seem like we should be good at. So yeah, I mean, I think I just feel solace that we know about it and it's that far in the future. And so if it becomes an issue, you just blow it up, right? Like I think you just shoot a rocket at it.
Yeah.
That feels like it would solve it. I don't know.
I think it'd be kind of cool if it could be something that like, what if the world had got some unity around this? It's like, hey guys, it's coming.
It's like too far out for it to like, I think it's like you said, it needs to be like an immediate crisis.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we had an immediate crisis and then we all, if anything, it inflamed divisions with COVID. So it's like everyone like, oh, we need this crisis. It's like, like crisis people are highly emotional and they probably will be less united, not more united,
That's true. I guess I was just being hopeful. Here's the map. So it's like the red line's the map. So you're looking at like Colombia, like northern South America, obviously a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going over into middle of Africa, Saudi Arabia maybe, and then India, China, or maybe like Nepal. So I don't know, kind of interesting. 3.1, I'm not too worried about it. 3% chance is pretty small. I think I read some scientists talking about it. He said most likely it just like disintegrates or just like goes away and it goes down to zero and we kind of forget about it. But it's kind of a fun one to follow, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seems like a lot of people are cheering for it. I do agree it is nuts that we can track something like so far out, and it does make me feel better that like nothing else is out there, because we would know. And then I was thinking too how crazy it is that like think I don't know maybe 100 years ago you could just be walking around all of a sudden an asteroid would just fucking destroy you and you'd have no idea at all. It's just
so there's this like etching from I think it's like the 1600s of the night sky, and it's just like all these like comets, and so it's like just a big like meteor shower, but it was like one of the biggest in human history, and it was like thousands of like meteor showers, and it's like you just think like right like the apocalypse, because you just see the sky and it's just all these like meteors. And just think of like how much shit like that where you're like, what the fuck, right? Like a hurricane, like you're just like chilling on a beach and like a fucking tsunami comes by, like what the fuck, or you like meet a shark for the first time, or even like just being introduced to like a different tribe, or like seeing a whole new country, like Christopher Columbus discovering new world, and like whole new people that have different skin and like different,
Religion makes a lot of sense when you
it does.
Like you're like searching for answers.
Yeah. Like, or like you have the first conjoined twin being born. Like what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Imagine the first person that had a kid. They're probably like,
yeah.
What's going on in my stomach?
Right. Kind of related, but so I read this article and I think it's like an ongoing series, but it's this guy just talking about like all the stuff that we take for granted, right? And like it kind of like the obvious things of like TVs and like now everyone has TV, but like I think just food, right? So as recent as the 1960s, scientists were predicting that like half of the earth would starve, and like famines were a big thing, like up until recent history, that we just didn't have food. And like how that happened was kind of during World War II. There's this guy, and this is was funded by the Rockefeller Institute, went down to Mexico because like Mexico was having problem, like they had a big drought and like they like lost a ton of food supply. So this was like kind of with the wheat. So he figured out like dwarf wheat. So he basically just took all these like wheat and just spent like this like hand painstakingly process of just like trying all these different wheat varieties with and just figured out like because it was called a rust, like this disease, it was like a rust belt disease, and it was just killing all these plants. And so like one, he figured out a wheat that was resistant to, or corn, actually it was corn that was resistant to it, and also like involved in like being more like you get more use out of it. And also we figured out like fertilizer, that basically plants need nitrogen to, like nitrogen is kind of like the gas that makes photosynthesis work. So if you get a fuck ton of nitrogen, you get a fuck ton of photosynthesis, so you get a fuck ton of yield. So modern fertilizer was also around World War II. So it's kind of like fertilizer, irrigation, and like actual like genetics of the plant. And all those three things kind of happen at the same time-ish, and just led to that like it's like basically 40% of our population right now is able to survive just based on these three things. And it's like basically 5 people solved all this and led to like 3 billion people being alive today. Like 5 people, and like that blows my mind, right? Like, and I think like the great man theory is kind of like in modern history is like being poo-pooed. It's kind of like liberal bullshit, but like that's totally true that you can have like one person just make it so 1 billion people can survive. And like that, you're talking about like Thomas Jefferson, that he was a king, right? He had like 40,000 acre mansion and slaves and stuff, and even he like during the winter couldn't heat his home, and so like he like built all the shit and like didn't like also didn't have like fresh water and like fresh clean water, right? That we, and like you know this more than most, right, of like water treatment, that we just take it for granted that you can turn your tap on and get basically free water, unlimited free water that's clean, you know, and we just take that for granted. Like that's like no one in history ever had that shit. And now our poor people do.
Dude, I didn't know that story about the wheat. That's crazy. Like talk about having like ramifications you can't predict, but in a good way. Like that is insane, because that like all of a sudden once you are able to give people like enough calories to survive and pretty much burn, it's like the entire world, like pretty much up until that, like entire world was like, you gotta eat, you gotta try to eat, you gotta try to eat. And now it's like, oh, we can like go do other things.
It's like
now.
one in 10 have like malnutrition. It used to be like 5 in 10. Like back in like 1920s, it's like 5 in 10. Now it's 1 in
10. Yeah. And I still think we could probably do it more efficiently, but it's funny too. Like the U.S. has actually gone, talk about pendulums. Like we've
right. And now it's obesity.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, like people say like, oh, you take like George Washington, put him in nowadays, or like Jesus, or you know, any of these historical figures, like what they would be most surprised about. I think it would just be obesity. Like being too fat is our issue. Like that was like a sign you were wealthy, is you were fat. And still some places in Africa, that's what they desire, right? Is fat people, because it shows you have access to nutrients.
Middle East.
Yeah, like that would be crazier than slaves or religion or fights. Just I think food, just something as simple as food.
Yeah, it is nuts. That's crazy. I didn't hear about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Just doing a little corn testing down in Mexico.
Yeah, and then they also like replicate it with rice too, and it worked out the same way.
Nice.
And like that's why like it pisses me off that people don't like GMOs, because like that's genetically modified. Like that's what we did to feed. It's like such a privilege to be like, I have so many food options. I can have a pure option, because the non-pure option, even though it's like all modified, right? You know,
it's still
it's like 4 billion people being alive, and
it's like those pictures of like corn before we changed it. It's like
and it's like shitty and gross. Yeah,
all like those different fruits. It's like no one was. I mean, you could eat it, but it was like the amount of like food,
seeds, and garbage. Yeah.
Disgusting. Did you? This was a while when I stumbled upon. there's people that think, because you know how like, so it's like communism killed 100 million people over the last century.
Mhm.
We pretty much know that. Pol Pot, China, Russia, Soviet Union, famines, everything. There's people that think that about capitalism.
Yeah, and it's kind of like because it didn't save deaths, right? And it's like only capitalism is tasked with saving deaths, not
Uh,
causing deaths, right? Because it's like
yeah,
if you just attribute all the deaths to the current thing, like not even directly related, like so communism only gets penalized for the shit they cause, not like the other shit tangibly related. So it's kind of like you're taking a negative one and a positive one, and it's like absolute value type thing. But yeah, I mean, it's
yeah,
just like it's kind of like we we're talking about like with the hospital shit, right? Where you just think, and part of me kind of admires that, like making the system better. Like oh, we can do so much better, and I'm just kind of like, what we have is pretty fucking good,
yeah.
And I'm kind of an optimist in that category, but like it could be so much worse. Like we have it so good compared to 99.9999% of human life.
Yeah, and that's the key. I think people seem to forget is like even 100 years ago, just life was so insanely different, and I don't think people like can really. It seems to me like younger people, and I don't
Because
know
it's
if
all
why
we know.
with technology
Yeah.
and stuff, but like it's like they don't read like or hear about it, or I don't
Well,
know
and
why.
like, I mean, it's like all like they don't like. I mean, even World War II, right? Like that's kind of in my mind, but it kind of feels more like a movie, right? And like I
Yeah,
think in like 10, 20 years when I don't know, I think there's like probably a handful of World War II people still alive, but like when they're all dead,
that's
you
true.
know, and like the Holocaust is already kind of like they did a really good job documenting it and had the foresight of like realizing like this is crazy enough that we gotta like actually get videos and shit of it. But even
Insane.
we still have Holocaust deniers because it's so like mind boggling.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I've never. When I heard that there were Holocaust deniers, I was like, how? You know?
I mean, that makes sense. Like you just don't want to believe that humans were this
Yeah.
capable of cruelty.
Yeah, I guess that's more so. It's just like the wanting to be ignorant a little bit, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also like like in war, like there's no perfect victim too, right? And like in reality, there's no perfect victim. Like there was, like some Jewish people would become like favored inmates, right, to stay alive, and they would throw other inmates under the bus, or like and like the
Mark.
poor people, usually couldn't buy their way out of it, and so it's like
Yeah.
okay, sure, and I guess we've talked about it too, like the numbers, like even if it's like 4 million, does that really matter? I mean, it matters, but does it really matter in terms of like
Yeah.
this
It's
was
more about
what
how
happened?
they were doing it. That's like the
Yeah.
crazy bit anyway. It's like, it's just like the systematic, like training to a camp, putting people in showers, gassing, burning the bodies, burying them. Like just that's fucked. Like
Yeah. And
mind
like how
blowing.
everyone kind of
And
went
I think
along with
like I think that's what kind of annoys me because people love to compare things to the Holocaust nowadays, and it's like that like systematic like murder of just is so different. It's like a whole different level of evilness that is not even near like a war. Like
it.
people
Yeah.
have wars and like obviously it's horrible when people die in wars and innocent people for sure. But it's not the same as like what that was.
And I mean, to me, the horrifying thing is like how common it is. These were normal, quote unquote, normal people that got
Yeah.
ripped into a frenzy, and like a lot of people had to be okay with it, or like not push back on it for that to happen. And like, like I'm not gonna compare COVID, but how quickly COVID we were willing to say, hey, you're killing me. I'm gonna strip you of liberties and put you in jail, for that, right? And like those are normal people. Normal people got whipped in a frenzy in a span of a couple months to deprive liberties, right? Like China people were like locking people in their homes,
Yeah,
you
firing
know,
people from their jobs, canceling
killing
school.
animals,
That just definitely like was a red flag, I think, for
like that's like inherent, you know, like that's part of the human condition. And like we say, like the Holocaust can never happen again. Like it absolutely could, because it's just humans did it. Normal humans did it. Normal humans did it.
Yeah, and that's the scary part, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Good talk. MLB. Oh, some generic MLB storylines here.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
We're really jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
Keep our listeners on our toes. So these are just kind of the big moves right now. Bregman versus Devers at third base in Boston. What do you think? Who's going to win?
Well, so I think we kind of touched on this, but maybe didn't go into it much. Where, like, I think it's kind of more pronounced in baseball because I think the fan base is more intelligent on stats, you know, and we can quantify like who's a good defender, who's not a good defender, who's good at this position, good at work, good, you know, whatever, right? And just realize that like Devers is one of the worst third basemen in the league, and Bregman is one of the best third basemen in the league. So like, if you were in a vacuum, obvious, right? Like if we're playing OOTP or video game, you know, like, okay, like I'm just gonna do this or whatever, right? But there's like contracts, egos involved, and like people are just like don't really understand.
Cassis came out and was like, Devers is the best third baseman in baseball. And I'm like, oh, fun time in Boston.
So this is interesting. Who do you think is projected to be the best third baseman in baseball in 2025?
Matt Chapman.
No, Matt Chapman's fourth.
Okay. Witt? Is he shortstop?
He's shortstop. And again, like think of people that like these projections are like what position you historically played, not maybe what you're gonna play in 2025.
Okay.
Give you a hint there.
Oh. I was gonna say Machado, but he's probably not. Bogart's probably not.
Machado is kind of low.
Getting paid a lot.
Yeah, Machado's not even up here. Wow, Machado's dang. He's 46.
Brutal. Another brutal contract that is.
Yeah, his offense is pretty good, but yeah. Like he's still like one of the best WARs.
Who are the classic like the best third baseman? I can't even like.
Yes, he. I mean, think of why I'm. Like why I'm like excited to talk about it. I guess.
Devers?
Nope.
Not Devers. Why you're excited? It's going to be a prospect, or not? Is it a prospect?
No, not a prospect. Again, what position this person did play? Maybe not will play.
Arenado? I don't know.
No. Joey Ortiz.
What?
Yeah, 7.9. Like pretty far and away. 1.2 better than the next best, which is Jose Ramirez.
Dude, I never would have guessed that in a million years.
I know, right? Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, third best defensively.
Wow. Okay.
Guess who's 12th best? I don't know if I would have guessed this. Oliver Dunn.
Well, that's actually kind of exciting for me.
That kind of feels good, right?
Yeah, I actually feel really good now. If he's really there. Read off like who's like 10th, 11th, who's around there.
All right, fair. All right. So fourth, Matt Chapman. Ke'Bryan Hayes is fifth, which that's kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, he's
Miguel Garcia 6. 3.3. So again, Joe Ortiz is 7.9. Jose Ramirez 6.7. IKF 6. Matt Chapman 4.2. Ke'Bryan Hayes 3.9. Miguel Garcia 3.3. Isaac Paredes 3, which is kind of surprising.
Wow, I didn't know he's that good.
Bregman 9th at 2.8. Ryan McMahon 2.7. Arenado 2.6. Dunn 2.2. Ramon.
That is crazy. Yeah. You're like listing off like major contracts, like big signings, and then Oliver Dunn is like right there with all.
I know, and that's why I love this shit because it's like there's so much, like, like Zips is projecting him for 8, Oliver Dunn for 8, defense. Like, so it kind of ranges, but like ATC is 1.9. And I mean, they're all like kind of different, but like Oliver Dunn all of them he grades pretty well. And he was pretty decent, defensively last year. Even like he was a 0.1 WAR with a 68 WRC plus. So
you think the Brewers are the only team that knows about zips, and that's
it's just like I think we just actually have nerds that look at it. I guess okay, so this is funny. 29th best defender, third base.
Monty.
Yeah, Monty.
My boy.
You're fucking like better than
as
good as Jazz Chisholm Jr. and better than Nick Madrigal. Better than Rendon, better than Bohm, better than Miles Mushaboni, better than Brett Beatty, better than Luis Urias, better than Machado, Toro. Yeah, so it's like
that's crazy, dude. How is Machado so bad?
I think it's just kind of older, and I don't know, like because a lot of people like when you think like I think we have this tendency of thinking like that when their bat's really good that their defense is somehow still kind of good, but
Machado had such a sick arm, though. Like back in the day, he was age, I guess. Arenado, I would feel like what was Arenado, 5th or something like that?
Yeah.
Would you trade for Arenado? He's kind of like on the trade.
Like, he's so old. And again, like fucking Oliver Dunn. I mean, just the cheapness and like his bat can play. Like he has power. Like there's some upside there. If he gets consistent.
God, you're talking me into Oliver Dunn. I didn't expect that kind of podcast today.
I know, right?
Hard hit percent his hard hit percent's kind of elite.
I know, it's kind of like mind blowing, actually.
His chase is really good. His bat speed is like one of the best. Oliver Dunn is one of the best bat speeds in baseball.
I know, right?
Wow. Okay. We just need to combine him and Sal.
I know, right? Like if you did.
And he actually batted 280. No, that was on base. Okay. Yeah, he could get better. He could probably get better.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy though. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Churios, like negative defense for WAR, which I don't really agree with.
Yeah, that's weird. He was pretty solid defender. I thought he seemed a little lost
for a 20-year-old, Yeah,
I feel like he definitely has room to improve. Like, and he's pretty athletic, dude.
Exactly.
He did like seem like uncomfortable. Like he would always make the play, but it seemed a lot of times last year like it was kind of awkward. Like he'd take weird angles, or he'd like slide weird, or just fall weird when he caught the ball. I don't know. He just had some weird plays. Like it just looked kind of ugly, but the result was an out. So, Vlad, no contract. Do you see him staying in Toronto after?
No. And, okay, so that was kind of the thing mentioned to you where I think he's going to do the Soto thing, right? Where it's just I'm just going to go who pays me the most, and like it's kind of weird because there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, right? Like we all do that in our personal life, but for some reason, like in sports, and I think baseball's kind of like one of the worst of this, where it's like you feel like like they should take a hometown discount, and it's like I think he was open to getting a long-term deal when he was 21, 22, 20, like all these years. And I just like Toronto's front office, it just seems like they're almost like it's weird, right? Where they'll offer money, but like they won't pay like market-breaking deals for their own players, And it's like I think it'd be really tough to be a fan of them.
Do you think the taxes thing messes with players in Canada?
Yeah, but you could do the whole deferred shit, right? And then like, so it's like deferred, and then they and like maybe like because I think they're owned by like Rogers, like the corporation. So maybe the corporation doesn't want to like have that on their books, type of thing.
Yeah, it just seems like they blew this. They should have signed him too. Like a couple years ago, he was kind of down.
Yeah, and he was like, it's like you don't believe in your own talent. Like they're always like past the point, like they'll only pay for proven talent, but then the proven talent costs so much, they're not willing to do that. So it's like they're in this no man's land of like they have a bunch of money, but they'll only do it. Like they're just like the worst part of being a big corporation, where they're too risk adverse, but they have all this money and like they just don't put it in like Smart.
Yeah.
I would much rather be a Brewers fan than I would Toronto for front office. Like, even if we were hamstrung, at least like we'll pay for Churio. We'll pay Yelich. We'll take big swings with Wilson Contreras or whatever, right? Like, at least we're not afraid to be risky. You kind of have to, right?
It's tough too, because like Toronto, I mean, you're in a major city, bigger city in the North America. Location's pretty nice, honestly. I think they're actually more south. Did you know this? Toronto is more south than Milwaukee.
Yeah, like when you look at it, yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's kind of funny. So it's like you get great weather over the summer. But yeah, they're just all this. And it sounds like he wants to go to Boston, which who knows what happens there. I just feel like I don't know. At first when I saw it, I was like, it'd be kind of fun to sign him, but then it's like $30 million a year
for like a fat third baseman.
Yeah, for a first baseman, it's like he's not going to age well. Great player. If I was the Yankees or Mets and had unlimited money, I would do it in a heartbeat. But
I mean, it's like kind of like it's weird, right? Because Alonso, like he got not that much.
Yeah, what did he end up signing for?
So it's like how much Vlad turned down probably compared to like Alonso is kind of weird to me, Like, it's weird how that is valued, I guess.
Oh, he only got 2-year 54? Wow.
Yeah, and it's like opt out, yeah.
Oh, wow. I thought they were like holding out big time for that. That's wild.
No. Yeah, Alonso got kind of like he didn't get a crazy deal. Like, it's pretty.
We could sign him next year for a 1-year deal.
I think first basemen are the new running backs.
Yeah, let's fucking pay one.
Yeah.
Let's do it, dude. I guess maybe you don't need it, though. You can get Carlos Santana.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing where it's like, because it's just, it seems like it's kind of replaceable, but then you learn that, like, if you have a Saquon, Josh Jacobs, whatever,
it
takes
you over that next level.
Worth it, yeah. And I guess, like, because you look at his K rate, like, and it's kind of surprising. Vladdy is projected a K 13% of the time, which is, like, pretty fucking insane. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing about him is, like, if you're Toronto, though, because you had Bichette and Biggio, and they didn't kind of, like, turn out to be as good as maybe Toronto hoped.
Yeah.
Vlad is like he's the face of the franchise.
Yeah, right. And you're not like, if you're not want to pay that, even like you have all this money, then what the fuck are you doing?
You got to pay that guy, and like for the fans, as a business, you just gotta like keep them and eat it and move on, and it's fun, and like you'll have him for his entire career. He'll probably go in your Hall of Fame, your team's Hall of Fame. It's like you just gotta, I don't know. I think as a business, you gotta like kind of keep those guys around. So.
Well, maybe it's because like Bo Bichette just kind of the wheels completely fell off him, and maybe that's why they're a little skittish.
Yeah. This contract's not too bad.
But that has like ramifications of like, I think that's why they don't get free agents, because like if you're not willing to pay your guy, why would anyone else come?
And they've done that now with Simeon. They did it with Teoscar Hernandez. They did it with, I think Batista. They let go. Cruz. I mean, pretty much all and they've had tons of Stroman. Yeah. They've had tons of like pretty damn talented. They've had some really good teams. Donaldson, MVP, right? Didn't Donaldson win an MVP with them? Yeah. Like they've had some pretty awesome dudes who they just let walk.
Yeah,
which is kind of wild. Justin Turner last year. Speaking of, what do you think of Altuve in left field? But I just think this is going to be a fucking disaster. And I'm like,
yeah, like, and I saw like for height, like the person that's like most related the last time this has happened was in 1919, I think, for like the White Sox. And so it's like, but like maybe it's like part of like, oh, you have to be this certain height to be good here, and they're like, like the common wisdom just being like, fuck it, like, and I do think there's so much more of like, if you're an athlete, a baseball athlete, like you're good at defense, I think that is way more transferable than we normally thought. Like, is shortstop and second base, and third, like, is that really that much different? I don't think so. And like center field to shortstop, like we're seeing that with like O'Neal, Cruz, Mookie, Merrill was a shortstop, and like, I mean, Merrill, right, like his first year went from shortstop to center field without any of it and was a superstar, like awesome.
Yeah.
And I think like more of it is just like get the premium baseball athlete, and he'll figure out a spot to put him in after.
This I 100% agree with what you're saying, but my concern with Altuve is he's 34 years old. He's not a good defender.
Yeah, but it's left, right? Like, I mean, he could that athleticism is so much more. It's so much easier to be an athlete in left field than it is, infield.
Yeah, he'll hurt himself less in left than at second base, right?
Yes. I mean, honestly, he might even be a better left field defender compared to other left field.
Yeah, defenders. I guess it's interesting to see how it works out. I'm just excited because he's not going to have good arm strength. Like, we make fun of Yelich, who actually, statistically, Yelich actually isn't that bad of a.
Yeah, and he somehow got actually better. But it's kind of crazy how he did. Yeah, but yeah.
I just feel like Altuve is not going to have a good arm, and I'm trying to manifest this, but I just want some highlights of people running on him, and it's just going to be I'm going to laugh so hard when this 5'6" dude out deep in left field is just trying to make this throw into home, and it's getting cut off all the time, and it's just going to be great. But I'm sure. Do you think the Astros bounce back this year? They're pretty interesting.
Yeah, I kind of,
is it over?
I don't think so. I don't know. So I have a good amount. Christian Javier, I have on my dynasty team, and I like him a bunch. This Luis Garcia guy, because they were really racked by injuries, pitcher injuries last year. I think losing Tucker is going to hurt a lot, but I think Paredes and a Cam Smith guy can figure it out.
Jordan's a superstar.
Yeah. Although, did you hear his knees are apparently fucked, and it's a ticking time bomb?
Oh God.
Well, look what they got. They got Ben Gamble projected to be a left fielder. No shit.
Jake Myers, I don't even know. Pena's a good defender, but I don't know if he's.
Yeah.
We'll see if he ever actually They kind of have a weird team. Caratini.
Yeah.
On the bench. John Singleton, your boy. And then I do like Framber Valdez a lot. Hunter Brown is solid. Wisniewski, that was the trade with Chicago.
Yeah. He's supposed to be all right.
Hader.
Bullpen looks pretty good.
Abreu, Hader, Scott. Yeah. Decent guys there.
Yeah, go to the injuries. Yeah. So I have Luis Garcia and Christian Javier.
And McCullers is solid too.
Yeah, he was pretty good, yeah. Sousa, he's a bruiser.
Kind of a dark horse team, I guess, a little bit. Who would play at second base if they?
I guess maybe you do the Cam Smith guy. I think that's who it is. If you scroll to keep going. Yeah, keep going. Cam Smith. He might be
70th ranked prospect.
Yeah.
22. Probably time to start knocking on the door. Nice. Yeah, they're an interesting team. I feel like they were so dominant, and then all of a sudden it just kind of crashed last year, and it was whoa, it kind of was weird. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think just money wise, they're kind of in a weird spot too.
Yeah, I like Caratini. I think he's a solid catcher.
Yeah.
Dude, I gotta give credit to Ben Gamble for just having his career. He was the brother that wasn't as good too. Matt Gamble was and Ben is just fucking. I don't know how much money he's made, but he's just had a hell of a career. And I just shout out Ben Gamble. 1.2 million.
You want to pull up Yelich's baseball savant? I'm looking at it right now, and I kind of just forgot how good it was last year.
Hell yeah, dude.
He had 315.
Dude, he was.
Dude, look at that. Holy shit.
He was so good. He was literally MVP Yelich.
And look at that. And if he's feeling really good, bat speed is still there. We could have why can't he just be he could be an MVP? I think Yelich is the true dark horse MVP candidate.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to. He's never lost, even when he was playing not as good. He's never really lost his eye. He just does everything so well. Even when he wasn't hitting the ball well, he still was a pretty solid player for us.
Yeah,
and I mean, his hard hit percent is 46%. That's crazy.
I know. And like, I think my biggest thing is like, there's no restrictions. Like, so he feels good to go.
He does have one restriction: no ass
Oh.
eating.
Yeah.
No ass eating.
But yeah, like next up, Churio, Yelich, Joe Ortiz, Contreras, like just that alone, a little bit better starting pitching, maybe a rookie or two pops. I don't know, win the division.
All right, over under 25 homers for Yelich.
I'm gonna go under. I don't know. Like and then I realized like he's 33. And that's kind of when the cliff. Yeah, that's kind of when it happens. And he had like major back surgery.
Yeah, that's true. I'm thinking 26 or 27 homers this year. I think he just gets over.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like Woody for him. It's like I just kind of want him, like if he can play a lot, I think I'm more happy about if he plays a lot than necessarily like the stats.
Yeah. Is he 100% right now? He's good to go?
That's what he says, yeah. But like, I don't know. They probably all would say that.
Kind of all say that,
yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's nice that we can. I mean, we got a lot of dudes who can kind of like fill in, and if he needs a couple days DHing, maybe that's an option.
Yeah. Or somehow like we just get rid of Reese and he plays first. Even though he said he wouldn't, but yeah.
Nothing wrong with playing first base. Harper does it.
He's 6'3". Like he has the size for it.
Yeah, I think he'd be good for
Harper did it. Harper did it.
You could talk some shit to the other players.
Yeah.
Help I think what I really like about Yelich is I think he's just like a really good pro for like the other players, like to be around our young guys. And I think he brings like for the pitcher, it might be nice to have him like in the infield for the pitcher. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's a nice, trustworthy guy over there,
Yeah.
Like, do you think Ortiz, like, say, like last year, you have the timeouts. Willie comes in. Willie was kind of like the lead. He was the leader of the infield for sure.
Well, especially because he could speak Spanish. I think that's kind of a big thing with like, is Ortiz, and like, Churio too, right? Like Churio, that was huge.
Yeah. So do you think that who becomes our leader of the infield? Is it Reese? Maybe it is Reese. I think Reese is pretty well liked. Monasterio.
I was just thinking that Monasterio.
Does Monty speak Spanish or no?
Yeah. It's like Bohemian, right? Or like Jamaican or something.
Oh yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
We'll have to get Sophie out there. She'll do some pep talks in Spanish.
Yeah, I hope Sophia. Yeah, I kind of
we need a comeback here from her.
Yeah, we really do.
All right. I think that's it. Like and subscribe. Any last words?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
No, spring training already. Wow. I mean, time flies. Masters coming up too.
And March Madness in a month.
Yeah.
Kind of underrated, but yeah, Masters 2 months. February, spring training. It just it was tough.
Right now it is 16 degrees outside. So it was like 0 yesterday.
It was 60 here, so that was kind of nice.
Well, I'm happy for you.
But it was a tough 12 days. I think it was about 12 days not having any sports. Football ended and Brewers are back now. So
it was kind of a nice palate cleanser though. Like it kind of nice to flush it out. Get like you said, level the dopamine.
Yeah, there we go. Got to level the dopamine. All right. Until next time, like and subscribe. Thank you, listeners.
Peace
out.